touching left, right and centre this Thursday night. I'm Nidhi Razdan. On the show this evening, the Supreme Court cracks down on corruption in Indian cricket, says that the Chennai Super Kings and the Rajasthan Royals should be banned from the IPL and that someone like Sunil Gavaskar should head the Indian Cricket Board. With a final order expected by the court tomorrow, we ask whether the court can actually clean up the game and whether this year's IPL should be scrapped altogether. Well, in a move that is bound to shake up Indian cricket, the Supreme Court today proposed replacing BCCI President N. Srinivasan with former cricketer Sunil Gavaskar and barring the Chennai Super Kings along with the Rajasthan Royals from IPL 7. In court today, senior counsel Harish Salve also attacked Indian skipper Mahendra Singh Dhoni, accusing him of being guilty of corrupt practice by lying before the probe committee on the role of Srinivasan's son-in-law Gurunath Mayappan. In fact, Dhoni, who was supposed to have held a traditional pre-match press conference in Dhaka today, did not do so. Dhoni had told the probe committee that Mayappan had no role in the CSK team.
The Supreme Court is in no mood to go soft on the BCCI boss N. Srinivasan. 48 hours after their observation that Srinivasan holding on to his post of president of BCCI is nauseating, the Apex Court has now given a 3-point proposal to the BCCI. First, the Apex Court feels the Chennai Super Kings and the Rajasthan Royals should not play IPL 7. Second, some eminent former cricketer like Mr. Sunil Gavaskar should take over from Srinivasan as president of the BCCI. And third, no India Cements employee should be part of the BCCI. In other words, someone like N. Srinivasan, who owns India Cements, cannot hold any post in the Indian Cricket Board.
आदेश नहीं दिया है, लेकिन कोर्ट ने बोल दिया है। कोर्ट ने ही प्रपोज कहा है कि मैं यही करने जा रहा हूं और कल 10:30 बजे इसको रखा है फर्स्ट आइटम में।
In other words, the BCCI lawyers have less than 24 hours to come up with a strategy to convince the Apex Court that they should not pass this harsh an order. But what made Supreme Court focus in such detail on Srinivasan and his conflict of interest? After all, this is something that was not part of the Mudgal Committee report that was made public. NDTV has learnt that the tipping point were the contents of the sealed envelope that was submitted by the Mudgal Committee. The envelope has unverified reports that Srinivasan stole the Chennai police's probe of the Chennai Super Kings.
He was allowed to buy the team, which I think was the first mistake that the board did then. Because this conflict of interest was there then also. So therefore, they should not have allowed him to buy the team in first place.
That comment by the BCCI Vice President from the West Zone, Ravi Sawant, is possibly the first time that a BCCI office bearer has spoken out directly against Srinivasan. And Mr. Sawant is now not the only one.
So whatever transpired today and what Supreme Court has suggested already is a very bad day for BCCI. The thing has gone far beyond and it will hurt cricket lot. But I think in the interest of cleaning up the whole process, maybe Supreme Court, whatever they decide is correct.
Has N. Srinivasan put IPL 7 in great danger? That is a big question. But for now, the BCCI councils have to come up with some very convincing replies to Supreme Court's proposals to be able to save Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals. However, going by the mood of the judges, their intent is clear: to clean the Indian cricket administration and thereby save the sport. In New Delhi, this is Rika Roy for NDTV.
Well, reacting to what the Supreme Court said today, Sunil Gavaskar had said that he would be happy to take up anything the country's top court tells him to do.
The fact that the Honourable Supreme Court, which is the highest court of the land, thought it fit to think of me is a huge honour. It's an incredible honour, probably the greatest honour that I have received in my career. So I do not know. That is just at the moment. That is just a suggestion from the Honourable Court. It is, I think, for the BCCI then eventually to take a call. It is. You have to say a little bit sad, more than a little bit sad, because of the acts of a few players who were compromised. Everybody gets a bad name. And I think that is the reason why it's sad. But we've also got to remember that a great majority of the players are clean.
Well, that was Sunil Gavaskar speaking earlier today. The question is whether the Supreme Court's intervention is something that is much needed and whether the Supreme Court is actually going to be able to clean up corruption in Indian cricket. Joining us tonight, Pradeep Magazine here in the studio with us. We have Charu Sharma and Atul Vasan back with us this week. Also, Shishir Hatangadi joined us tonight from Mumbai. Rahul Mehra also here with us. Let me ask Pradeep Magazine first. What is the impact of what the court has said today going to be? Because it's actually turned everything on its head. The fact that these two teams, the court says, shouldn't play, the issues that it has raised on conflict of interest. Do you believe that this is the starting point for a cleanup?
Yes, it definitely is. It's more than a starting point. When the highest court of the land takes these decisions, makes these suggestions or observations, but they obviously are binding, otherwise they will pass their orders. So it is, I think, the beginning of cleanup act, but I am not sure about the future, in the sense that what is the suggestions going to be the cleanup so that these things don't occur again and again. If their suggestion is to have, say, somebody like Sunil Gavaskar to be interim board president, but they should realize, with all due respects to Gavaskar as a great cricketer, he himself is part of the board, he himself was part of the governing council, he himself has huge conflict of interest. So I think the way ahead probably is, I personally feel, is to appoint somebody like, say, Justice Mudgal himself. Say that, look, prepare a draft or prepare a proposal like you did in the sports law bill, something that has do's and don'ts and accountability structured into it, and that board has to follow those governance guidelines and has to be accountable, because left to the board themselves, they will replace A with B and carry on with their whatever. And
nobody will be accountable to anyone. Let me get first reactions from everyone else then on what the Supreme Court has said today. Atul Vasan, you were saying the other day that it isn't really fair to necessarily pin the blame on one individual. It's about an entire system that has existed in the way this cricket is run in this country. Therefore, in that context, when you look at what the Supreme Court has said today, how important is it?
I think this could be the last straw that broke the camel back, because the whole system is under question. I'm just glad that somebody has said that there is a need for people of impeccable integrity, people who actually have played the game, but the system is such that players have to go and fight the elections in the state association, collect proxies, and while they're doing it, they also get entrenched in the system as well. Few players who've come through the ranks like Mr. Shivlal Yadav, I'm glad at least somebody has been talked about, heading the board. But just keeping the teams out, I just feel that, it's going to be a negative step. I want that the law and the rule should be implemented, but, for just misdemeanor of few individuals, a lot of people will suffer. I'm sure there's a middle path somewhere.
But, many would say that the misdemeanors of a few individuals does star the entire team. And if you look at the IPL rules, actually, if there has been illegal betting that has taken place, then it does affect the team and whether it should participate.
Exactly, that's what I said. If you implement the fine print, these two teams should have been withdrawn. Things should have been done much before. It should not have come to such a passe where the supreme authority in the country is actually telling what to do and what not to do. And it's very hard for people who have actually worked all their lives to come to this stage of power just to let go like that. And you're expecting high standards of moral and ethics from them, which is, I think, unfounded. So I'm glad, I'm sure, now there will be some kind of consensus or ombudsman where even the board feels that, we can't be just running the way we have been running for the cricket for so many years. Whoever is against us, we give them some money, we get them on board, and, things move on. I think, it's a perfect opportunity to actually set things in order.
Charu Sharma, the point is, whose fault is it that we've reached this impasse today? Whose fault is it that things have come to a point where the Supreme Court is now intervening? Many would even say, should the Supreme Court actually be having a say in how cricket administration is done in this country? That is also a legitimate question, but it has come to that point. And then it comes back to our friend Mr. Srinivasan, whom we were talking about just the other day.
Well, in a sense, it's a balloon that got too big for itself. And of course, there are many who wish that the balloon was pricked and cricket would come back to enjoy normal status. But let's not kid ourselves. It's a huge thing. I mean, we talk about it being religion or, people sleeping, breathing, eating, drinking cricket. So yes, it's a matter of great national interest, if not pride and honor. And That's why the Supreme Court has finally come in, because I don't think they'd step in for a matter that wasn't of national interest, of great and collective national interest. Whose fault is it? I'm not so sure. I think just about everybody involved with the establishment was turning a blind eye to everything. But I still would like to, I mean, you know, analogies and examples are perhaps poor here. But if you have a building that's crumbling or a carpet that's crumbling, you know, what's the point in sacking the manufacturer or getting rid of a couple of other people or an offending pillar? You've got to repair the entire building. And I will say once again, I think Pradeep touched on that, and I've said it very often, Nidhi, that this is an opportunity to demand and get and establish somehow through the court transparency and accountability within the cricket board, the whole establishment. How do you do that? I'm sure there are people who are better equipped to handle that, but I think there are information rights, and there's also all sorts of other rulings or areas where the sports bodies will take care of this. But unless we have that as a mandate, as something that the government or the Supreme Court now requires, as Pradeep said and as I've been saying, A will replace B. So what's the point getting rid of A in A? What's the big deal there? I mean, I know that we're talking about the head of the organization, but do you think
wider
Sunil Gavaskar and deeper reforms
is the right person to head the cricket board? Do you think that Sunil Gavaskar is the right man for the job?
Well, I would always say so. Sunny, why not? And I think he's also, half prepared for it already. Why not? Because, I mean, people like him have not only achieved within the sport, but outside of it as well. And he's a true national icon. But I think Atul touched upon that. That it's not an easy job. I mean, it's not just a question of becoming the head of the board. Then what does he do? Does he effect the kind of sweeping reforms that the board needs? It's not going to be easy because of the whole election process and the fact that he too could be stymied by the fact that there's this code of silence within the board. How do you break that? Can you go deeper and now say that, listen, you have to be transparent, you have to be accountable, and the board has to reach a situation where it is in a more responsible position of governing, because currently it will not.
Yeah, Shishir Hathangadi, the question that Pradeep Magazine though raised is about Sunil Gavaskar's own conflict of interest. Now, is that an issue that you think, is a serious issue as well? Because everything at the heart of this entire row is about conflict of interest. And therefore, while Sunil Gavaskar is of course a great player, if there is a serious conflict of interest even with him, that does raise a question mark.
Yeah, but Nidhi, the conflict of interest issue will come up when he takes over the board as president. I mean, he's a commentator and he's a columnist and he's everything that is outside the realm of a cricket ground. Today, he's been appointed or he's been proposed today by the Supreme Court. So if he really has to take it on and he's supported by the BCCI, then obviously he will, and he is smart enough to realize that the first issue that will come up will be conflict of interest, which he'll probably let go in terms of all his commitments as a commentator and columnist and things like that. Till yesterday, he was not even talked about as interim board president. So he's come to the bridge now. If the BCCI supports him and says, okay, you can take over as interim president, then he'll have to take a call in terms of his commitments and take a call. I think and knowing him, he's smart enough to realize people will question conflict of interest. But that's the past. He'll probably have to, he will, I'm sure, get rid of all his commitments as a commentator in the time that he is the BCCI interim president. Okay, let's expect that the BCCI supports him, because that's not done yet,
But on the issue of the suspension of the teams, where do you stand?
Suspension of the team, I think it's important for the Supreme Court to probe and weed out the rotten apples. I'm not sure that, banning two teams is the best solution at this stage. But if they are not able to weed out the rotten apples, then I'm sorry that Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals will have to go. But if they can do a fair probe and weed out all the rotten apples that have been responsible for the mess that Indian cricket is in today, then just get on with it. Get rid of the rotten apples and get on with the game, which is more important. Because there are a lot of good guys there, a lot of clean guys there. I don't think they should suffer at the expense of just a couple of people who've been involved.
Let me take that then to Rahul Mehra. Rahul, the same 2 points to you. One on the suspension of the teams, which generally there seems to be a feeling that isn't necessarily the solution, though there are many, at least when you read social media today, who support that. And also whether you believe Sunil Gavaskar is the right man to take over then.
Nidhi, so many issues and so many important issues you have flagged. I hope you just give me a little bit of time to address some of them. First of all, it's a historic day for Indian cricket. Kudos and my salute to Mr. Verma for having stuck on to the fight and not getting compromised on the way, because everybody till date has got compromised. So a big congratulations to him. Secondly, thank you Supreme Court for intervening and understanding the rot that BCCI is. It was about time that not only, what was the choice? The choice was to repose the confidence and the faith of ordinary cricket playing and cricket viewing citizen. Today, IPL is considered to be a WWE, if I'm not exaggerating, and there are enough evidences and factual positions which have been placed on documentary evidence which has come to substantiate that. Obviously, it was the last recourse. The courts are extremely responsible. They do not interfere to this extent in an ordinary court. So this is extraordinary circumstances in which extraordinary measures need to be taken by the court. Whether the two teams had to be suspended, for sure, these are two teams whose owners are the ones who are betting. And sometimes when the owners are betting, it could lead to match fixing or spot fixing, because owners don't bet just for betting. There is probably a larger game plan out there, which can only come out when you have a free, fair, independent and effective time-bound investigation, which obviously BCCI doing a self-regulation is an oxymoron, and BCCI with people like Arun Jaitley, Rajiv Shukla, Farooq Abdullah, Jyotiraditya Scindia, Sharad Pawar, Anurag Thakur and the likes, who are completely silence. There is a conspiracy of silence in and the conflict of interest to maintain a status quo. There's Arun Jaitley, who keeps on writing blogs on almost everything, but can't even raise his pen and put pen to paper when it comes to BCCI. God knows why. And there is a larger issue. Do you want to suspend IPL or ban IPL? Obviously not. So the next best bet is to suspend the two teams against whom there is prima facie enough evidence to show that they definitely cannot be sent to a haven, which is a haven of illegal activities, UAE, which has been till date banned by BCCI, and that is the territory where they want to have IPL. What more can I say about BCCI and its masters?
You raised an entire question mark on the IPL itself. When you're saying that the IPL is like the WWE, you're basically saying that it's like fake wrestling. So is that what IPL is? I mean, you've generalized about the entire tournament, and is that fair? Tell me,
Nidhi, the two top teams, they have been champions, Rajasthan Royals and CSK twice. I mean, these are the top teams who are under clout, whose owners are under clout. There is prima facie evidence against them. They are supposed to be suspended by the Honorable Supreme Court. I mean, these are not just mere coincidences. We need to really understand, and if there is a free and fair investigation, I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt, that it will lead to many more. And it will lead to probably the entire IPL, and it will lead to probably the higher authorities in BCCI. Who knows? We have never had an independent investigation. And on the question of Mr. Gavaskar, are we saying that Mr. Gavaskar is yes, he is one of the he's a legendary figure on the field, but he has really not displayed that courage to voice anything against BCCI, leave alone a small thing like DRS. He can't even go against BCCI on that. And we are assuming that a man who is a paid employee of BCCI, who earns crores and crores, multi-million-dollar contractual deals, because ESPN Star Sports the ongoing contract was stopped by BCCI because they did not want any opposition from Shastri's, Gavaskar's and the likes. And they therefore got them to be paid employees so that they become their mouthpiece.
Okay, Atul, I know you wanted to come in there on the particularly on the point of the IPL.
Nidhi, sorry.
No, one second, Rahul, let me just get it. One second. I'll come back to everyone else. Needs a chance to respond. Yes, Atul, yes.
I think, Nidhi, the next time you call Rahul, just do a program with him, because, he's just doesn't let anybody talk. He's entitled to his viewpoint. But you have to know, I'm just saying, then a lot of rhetoric I hear and all that. But the problem, oh my God, again you go. All right. So
no, Atul, go ahead.
Can I say something now? Okay. So I see the problem is that there are a lot of anti-corruption inquiries against every test-playing team as well. So whenever something happens, can we stop the cricket altogether? That's not the solution. We go to the problem and we solve it. It's not just wreck and burn everything down. New Zealand is under cloud, West Indies is under cloud. There are issues with players fixing international matches. So every time there is something, you ban that form of cricket or that team. That's not solution. And you know, you're not understanding the problem with the board. The constitution of the board is the problem. If Gavaskar is appointed, I want the court to have a route map where the constitution is changed. You know, I must tell you, Bishan Singh Bedi, Madan Lal, Kirti Azad, all the cricketers are trying to fight in DDCA. They're losing by, you know, huge votes to carpenters, to contractors, because the system is such. So Gavaskar is appointed the board president. Next time he has to fight the election, so he has to go and collect the proxies. You know, unless the system is changed, we'll keep on coming to this point. So I hope this opportunity is not wasted,
and there's some kind of ad hoc arrangement here. That these teams that are today the Supreme Court is saying should be out of the IPL are the very teams that have won the IPL more than once in the past, and if their owners are allegedly involved in some kind of illegal betting, then it does raise, I mean, that is what the rules say in any case, the team does get disqualified. So therefore, how can these teams continue in the tournament? How can the tournament continue, many would ask?
I'll tell you, you know, because, you know, we've come to a point where, as I said earlier, you know, if we go down to the micro levels, you know, every issue of illegality or misdemeanor will actually, you know, be held against the team to be taken out, and then we'll get nowhere. Now, if you take the teams out right now, and as I said earlier, 4, 5, 10 people are corrupt in these two teams, you're gonna, you know, create problems for 50, 70, 100, 200 people whose livelihood depends on this. Is it fair? I'm sure there are people who have got brains, you know, who can find another solution and actually placate everybody with, you know, making sure that things which have happened will not be happening. And we just put some more circuit breakers.
Magazine. Yes, Rahul. I know you were dying to respond to that.
Nidhi, the last recourse of all scoundrels in the field of Indian sports has become the national pride and the economics of the game. Let's not fall for that bait. I think there are rules, and rules need to be followed. The BCCI code of conduct, which has been adopted from the ICC code of conduct, makes it absolutely clear that if you happen to be either an official or a person who is in any way dealing with the franchise, then the entire franchise has to be suspended. It cannot be. Are we today saying that, you know, what was happening at the lower level, nobody knew, nobody else knew? I mean, here's a captain of an Indian cricket team, a captain of the CSK, a vice president of India Cements, Mr. Dhoni, who's blatantly lying, and his lie has been caught before Justice Mudgil's committee. He's saying that Mayappan, who was sitting in the dugout as a owner, who was, buying players in the auctions, who was going and attending owners' conferences, was only a mere enthusiast like me. Come on, let's not kid ourselves.
I'm going to bring in Pradeep Magazine on that point,
who are doing a cover-up
I want to turn the attention to Dhoni. That is an important point, because on the issue of Dhoni's role, you had Harish Salve today very strongly saying in court that Dhoni lied about Mayappan, that it is a cover-up, and that there is a clear conflict of interest given his position in India Cements. Now, what do we do about Mr. Dhoni, the Indian captain? Is his own role now increasingly going to come under scrutiny? Should he step aside? What should he do?
Well, you see, Nidhi, this whole root cause of conflict of interest comes from the top. When the board president amends the constitution, owns a team, then appoints a captain who is India captain, and then when the Indian captain was about to be sacked by the selectors, the board president steps in, saves his job, and all sorts of questions because of this conflict of interest will be raised. Now, if Dhoni is employee of India Cements, of owner, board president, he should have had the moral courage to speak the truth in front of Justice Mudgil. So in a way, it's very disappointing that an Indian captain who knows what the truth is but chooses to side with the powers because he probably fears that he might lose his captaincy. So in this conflict of interest, if a lot of names have to suffer, let them suffer, because in the long run, what are we trying to do? We are trying to clean up Indian cricket. We are not just to say that, look, these things keep on happening and let's not ban.
There are two things here. Does Mahendra Singh Dhoni need to speak up now? That is one question. Again, today, the press conference, he didn't address the press. Of course, that I'm sure is controlled by the board and not really his own decision. But the fact is, he has been completely silent throughout this entire episode.
Nidhi,
does he need to speak?
There are a couple of issues here. First of all, the Indian board should realize that why put a player in a situation of conflict of interest. See, the players are young. I am willing to condone a player for the simple reason that he has to play, and if such top officials are doing so much wrong, he sort of these are layers of intertwined complicities. But having said that, Dhoni, the Indian captain, has to also take responsibility for what he has done. And I think somewhere down the line, board has to take a decision. This board can't take the decision. Somebody else has to take a decision and make examples of punishments as examples, so that in future these things don't happen.